Hello and welcome. In this video, let's understand how we can use API versioning with OpenAPI. Here I have one default web API project and I have this default program.cs file. And if you notice, we are using OpenAPI here. And if you go to controller class, we have this default controller right here. Okay, and if I run my application, and if I go to Postman and hit this particular URL, I will get the weather data as expected. So this is the default implementation that we will get when we create a web API project. Now, let's see how we can add API versioning on top of it. To add API versioning, we need to install one NuGet package. So let's right click on this, click on manage NuGet packages and search for asp.versioning.mvc. And you need to install this first package and click on install. And this package is now added to our project. Now let's see how we can utilize this package. Come back to program.cs class. Here, before we have this builder.build, we need to say builder.services.add API versioning. Once this is done, we need to specify some options here. And the first option that we need to define here is the default API version, meaning if the user is not providing any API version, which version we should assume. Okay, so let's provide that options dot default API version equal to new API version, and we can say 1.0. So 1.0 will be the default version, and we can remove this and we can use the namespace. This is coming from asp.versioning. This is the package which we have installed, right? Next thing that we want to specify is options dot assume default version when unspecified. We need to set it to true. The third thing that we should be defining is option dot report API versions. Report API version equal to true. And the last thing that we need to specify is options dot API version reader. Using this property, we will say where we will be specifying the version, right? Whether it can be specified in the query parameter, it can be specified in the headers. In our case, I will be giving the API version in my headers. So I will say new header API version reader, and I will say the header name will be API dash version. Once that is done, on this method, on this add API versioning method, we need to also call dot add MVC. Now we can start using versioning in your web API controller, right? So let's save this and come back to weather forecast controller. Here we can have this one more method, right? Let's call it get version 2. I am not changing the name here. Name will remain as get weather forecast, but now I can specify which method to call for which version. I can say for this first method, I will specify the API version as 1.0. So this will be our default version, and the second one I can say API version 2.0. Right. With this, the API versioning is implemented. Now, if the user is sending API version as 1.0, the request will come here. And if the user is sending API version as 2.0, then the request will be coming here. And we can change our implementation based on our business logic. Now, let's run this application. Let's put a breakpoint at version 1 and version 2 also, right? So we can see to which method our request is going. Okay, open the Postman, and now let's try to hit this URL again. Currently, I'm not specifying any version. You can see my headers. I have not specified the API version here, and the request is now coming to the first method, that is version 1.0, because this is the default version that we have specified. If we are not specifying any version, we will pick 1.0. Okay, let's continue with this. You can see here I'm getting the data. Now let's specify the API version as 2.0. Now if I send my request, you can notice this time I'm getting my breakpoint at this line. This is version 2. Let's continue here, and we got the data. And if I specify the version 1 here and send the request, we are getting the request at API version 1 method, right? And let's continue here, and our method is executing and we are getting the data as expected. And one more thing I want to explain here, guys, the use of this particular flag, that is report API version. We have set it to true, and the reason for this, if this is set to true, then we will be sending the available versions to the client. Let me show you. If I run this application, right, let's open Postman and send the request with version 1.0. And if you notice the response, if you see the response headers here, you can see API supported versions. We are telling the client which versions are available for this particular endpoint. We are sending 1.0 and 2.0. Right? So this is the use of that particular flag. If that flag is enabled, we will be sending this particular header back to the client so that they can make the appropriate changes at their end. So that's it for this video, guys. In this video, we have understood how we can use API versioning with OpenAPI.